Auburn versus Baylor is just 4 days away. But what did Auburn's head football coach have to say to the media? Welcome on into the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. I'm your host, Mike Z. Turn us on, turn us up, we'll turn it out. I'm here with my good friend Kyle Rush from The Barn. Visit thebarnauburn.com for all your Auburn news, especially recruiting news. You guys do a great job over there, Kyle. It's week one. Finally. More sleeps until Auburn football. I am so excited. I know you're excited as well, too. On today's show, we're going to talk about Hugh Freeze's comments to the media today. We have selected some clips that we think are important for you guys to hear and then hear from us on. So we'll talk about that. Hugh Freeze talked about everything from Jackson Arnold to his offensive line, to his wide receiver room, to the kicking game. So all those things will be covered here today. Before we get into the first clip, though, Kyle, I saw you at the press conference earlier today. What was your general feeling about Hugh Freeze and his demeanor? This is an exciting time for coaches. You know, a former Auburn director of football operations coined it to me this way. He said, Mike, it's about 1,000 hours of practice and preparation in the spring and the summer for 40 hours of football in the fall. Exciting stuff, man. What was your take on Hugh Freeze's tone here talking to the media?
So I love that, he doesn't shy away, that he feels like the talent on the roster should give us – they have high expectations based off the talent on the roster. And I love that he's the human aspect of it, which that's never lacked with him. He's like, I got to quit watching film because the more film I watch, the more nervous I get. In other words, I'm almost like I'm getting so excited, I'm psyching myself out. So that was really cool. It just goes to show I think he's really pumped, just like all we are, that it's here and we get it one day earlier than we typically do, which is awesome.
It is awesome. Look, we opened the press conference talking about, of course, quarterback. And the question was asked by none others than yours truly. And it was definitely the longest answer I felt of the press conference. But let's hear what Hugh Freeze had to say about his starting quarterback.
Coach, you've been coaching your quarterbacks hard this fall camp. Can you talk about Jackson Arnold's preparedness for game one and where you feel he's at? Can you rate that? And then second part of the question, how do you prepare your team on a short week for game one when you've got a Friday game and you're traveling on the road?
Yeah, I'll do that one first. That, again, being game one, it's not that you have time to plan. So we actually formulated the last 2 weeks, just like it was a Friday game. So we've been able to, it is a little different for sure, but, you have to remind yourself that today's really a Tuesday and you're not normally on that same schedule on the normal week where you're practicing hard on a Monday or a Sunday, but having it be the first game has helped with that. Jackson, I think, is progressing every practice, and I'm excited to see him go and compete in our mock game that we had. I thought his decision-making was really good. I wish he'd hang in the pocket a little more and go through his progressions, and we're working on that with him. But at the same time, he's an athlete that creates some things too when he does escape the pocket. And so you have to balance that as a coach, I think. But he made good decisions. We've got to make sure, again, that we're not doing too much where our receivers, we want them in the right spots at the right time, and making sure, because I think we're athletic enough there to win. Just be sure we're not making stuff up, on a given play because you think you see something, or just do what the play is designed to do. And I think we're good enough there to win and get open, and that will help our quarterbacks. It'll be interesting, how we protect in this game with all the different exotic blitzes that they have. We've got a good plan for that, I think. But Jackson is, I'm pleased with his progression. Also pleased with Deuce and Ashton. Deuce in the mock game the other night was 7 for 7 and looked like nothing fazed him. And again, I know it's not against Baylor, but he was very accurate, stood in the pocket, threw the ball, and was really impressive. And Ashton did some really nice things also. So, but pleased with where Jackson's at. Excited to see him go and see what he does under the lights here Friday night.
He did mention the other quarterbacks at the end, so I just want to acknowledge that. But I want to focus on Jackson Arnold. He talked about wishing that he would hang around in the pocket a little more, but also acknowledged that he possesses athleticism, and you have to be able to balance that need to keep him in the pocket with his athleticism and his ability to be able to make plays. He went on to say that we can't just be making stuff up. We got to go with the play that's called.
Yeah.
I am. This excites me and makes me nervous at the same time, Kyle. It excites me because I hear that Jackson Arnold is a playmaker.
Yeah,
that's what I hear.
Yes.
But it also makes me a little nervous because I'm getting shades of Peyton Thorne last year and the coach and the quarterback not being on the same page about sticking with the play as called. Georgia last year on 4th down at midfield. What was your take on this answer here? It was a lengthy one, but he said a lot, and he gave both optimism and said, hey, there's some things here that we're still coaching, but I like where he's at.
Yeah, as far as the making stuff up, I felt like that was more of talking about the wide receivers, like being not kind of taking your own liberties when you're out there, kind of sticking to the play. But as far as decision making goes, obviously that has to make you feel good. He's making the right decisions. He's making quick decisions. I think that was a lot when you're talking about being on the same page. That indecisiveness, a lot of times it led to turnovers last year, maybe led to not being able to get the ball out on time. I mean, you like to hear that. I get the consistent I guess narrative has been when you have those drop back passes and you're reading the defense. That seems to be where if there is an issue, is a negative, it seems to be there. Either we're kind of holding it too long or we are running maybe a little bit too quickly. So the cool thing is as the game flow goes, if you can have the RPO running and you can kind of stay ahead of the chains, that doesn't really become an issue. When it becomes an issue is when you get behind, you got to throw yourself back into it. So I think there's positivity to glean from that, and then there's maybe some be a little bit more cautiously optimistic, and understand that he's not a perfect product, and there's some scar tissue probably from being sacked 35 times last year that he's going to have to continue to work through.
I couldn't agree more. Look, does this answer make you more or less confident in Jackson Arnold's ability to be able to go out there Friday night at Baylor and perform the way Hugh Freeze expects him to?
It makes me more confident because one thing that has been consistent is we're not turning the ball over. You're not hearing Jackson putting the ball on the ground. You're not hearing about him turning it over. And Hugh's been consistent, especially in the RPO game, that he's making the right decisions and he's making quick decisions. And to me, that is like 90% of the offense right there. Just be able to make the right decisions, quick decisions, and be able to move it. And that makes me feel really good. And then I think being able to run, that's like another check down. You know what I mean? I don't necessarily look at it as a negative. You got the check down to the running back, and then I'm a well above average runner too. That's like a whole nother check down. And the way the pressure that puts on the defense and the pass rush, I don't know, man. It gets me more excited.
Yeah, it does make me excited as well too. One of the things that I think about, Kyle, is that look, Jackson Arnold is not Cam Newton. This is not a comparison to Cam. I'm just talking about a quarterback who could throw, but also had much better than average athleticism at that position. Cam had a knack for knowing when to hang in the pocket and when to take off running. And that amounted to was, in practice, they were like, hey, would that have been a 5-yard gain or would that have been an 80-yard gain? Well, in hindsight, we know with Cam, it was a bunch of 80-yard gains. But and it's not to say that that's what Jackson is going to be doing out there. But certainly, I think that I think Auburn is in a good position. A lot was made of Hugh Freeze's comments on Jackson Arnold here, where a lot of people freaked out and they said, hey, is Hugh Freeze worried about his starting quarterback? He has no faith in him. The Locked On Baylor guys kind of like jumped all over it and said, hey, like this guy, Jackson Arnold, has lost his confidence. And that's not really what he said. But look, man, at the end of the day, Jackson Arnold has to go out there and he's got to do what Hugh Freeze needs him to do. And
Exactly.
we think he's able to do it. Look, before we get to our next clip, we're gonna have a quick word from our sponsors. This episode of the War Report is brought to you by our friends at Ames and Associates, Abels, Iannone, Moore and Associates. We want to give a big Auburn welcome to our newest sponsor, Abels, Iannone, Moore and Associates. They're an independent, fee-only registered investment advisor, which means they're fiduciaries, required to always put their client's best interest first, and they've been doing just that since 2003. Jeff Iannone, the president, and his wife Robin are both proud Auburn grads, and with two sons who have already graduated and one still on campus, you can tell this is an Auburn family through and through, which is important here to us at the War Report. What I like most, no minimum balance required, just straightforward, honest financial guidance built around you. Trust me, their approach is really different. And contrary to popular belief, Kyle, you don't need to be a millionaire to need a financial advisor. You just need a paycheck and some life goals, and these guys can help you. So if you're ready for your financial advice that you can trust, call Abels, Iannone, Moore and Associates at 912-777-4128 or visit aimainc.com. That's aimainc.com. The War Report has been compensated by Abels, Iannone, Moore and Associates for this endorsement. Abels, Iannone, Moore and Associates is a registered investment advisor. Registration as an investment advisor does not imply a certain level of skill or training. The information in this advertisement is for informational purposes only and should not be considered personalized investment advice. All investing involves risks, including the potential for loss of principal, and past performance is not indicative of future results. Get on the path to financial freedom. AIM and Associates today. Let's jump back into our conversation here. As I mentioned, great, I think, extensive answer when asked about Jackson Arnold. I love that. But somebody's got to protect him. Then a question was asked by one of my favorite beat writers, Justin Ferguson, about the offensive line. Let's listen to what Hugh Freeze had to say.
Hugh, you were in here last week talking about you wanted to see more from your guys up front with pass protection, straining more, doing that. How did they respond to that? How did you see that group do the last week in that area specifically?
Yeah, they've improved. I know they're very capable of doing that. And again, I say things sometimes that are, and I don't know that everybody hears everything I say. They see 1,000 different looks right now that they probably hadn't been coached very well to protect either. And so, I hope that means we've got some good one-on-one pass rushers. And I think, the thought behind that was I felt like we were losing too many one-on-ones in that. And Baylor certainly has guys that will test us. But I feel confident in who our guys are. And I think it helps when you get in a game and you're not playing yourself, and you would hope. But it doesn't matter who you play. If you stay in third and long, you're going to be in trouble. You're just not going to convert many of those against quality teams like Baylor. So I think what helps our offensive line more than anything is us winning first and second down and getting into third and manageable situations where we can do both run or pass. That would benefit them greatly. But they've responded well. Excited to see them have a chance to go out and prove that they're a quality SEC offensive line.
Prove that they're a quality offensive line here in the SEC. But he talked about helping the offensive line by staying ahead of first and second down. Now, what I hear is don't put yourself in bad third down situations. Yeah. Auburn in a lot of bad third and long situations last year. The playbook opens up from third and short. It shrinks on 3rd and 7 or more, and the field seems to shrink. Talk to me about this answer here. Auburn's offensive line has had more optimism around it this offseason than in any year I can remember in a very, very, very long time. And the prospect of this offensive line playing up to the level of a top SEC line could mean that Jackson Arnold could have a very, very big year if he's got time to throw the ball. He didn't throw a lot of interceptions last year, and he was running for his life. He only threw 3. So if he's got time to throw with these receivers, I think this offensive line could help him produce a season for the ages even.
Sure. My favorite, Hugh said a ton right there also to get to the answer of the question, which was how did they respond after a poor scrimmage? And he said, I felt like they responded. We needed them to strain more. That's what he said last week. I'll need them to strain more, need them to win more one-on-ones. And he said, I felt like they answered what did he say? Answered the call, or they responded to the challenge this past weekend. And I think that's what you want to hear every time they go out there. If there's something negative that happens, you want to hear that they had a bounce back. And he made another great point that I don't think people are aware of when you're talking about fall camp. They don't game plan for Auburn's defensive looks. They don't game plan for Auburn's defensive front when they're having these fall camp practices. They're calling plays. They're just working on the plays. You kind of know your responsibilities, and that's how you do it. Now the focus switches to, like he mentioned, you're actually going to be game planning for specific looks that Baylor's going to give, and they're going to give a lot of them. But it's a whole lot different when you know the tendencies, you know what it means when this person lines up in this position. You're able to understand the play from a game plan perspective. Like, it's just a whole lot different than just going out there and running a play. And I think that in and of itself gives them an opportunity to play better, play faster, because it's not a surprise every time they go to the line. Okay, we went over this. We're running this play. This is my responsibility. I don't got to think. We just go hit it. I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah, look, last year's line helped produce the second leading rusher in the conference in Jarquez Hunter. So run blocking has not been as much of a bugaboo as pass protection has been. But for a guy who a lot of people claim is seeing ghosts at times out there in Jackson Arnold, having a line that can protect his blind side and that he can trust is going to be big for his confidence. I think it's big for any quarterback's confidence to have a line that gives you a solid 3 seconds on average. Now, we talk about time to throw a lot on this show. If you're holding the ball past 2.5 seconds, most of the time it spells disaster.
Right.
That's the stats.
Sure.
There's only a few quarterbacks that when they're holding it longer, the chances of the play being successful go up. We've seen those quarterbacks over the years, the Jaden Daniels, the Cam Newtons, right? I would even say Bryce Young, guys who supreme in the pocket under pressure when it breaks down and scrambling and able to make things happen downfield. But ideally, what you want a quarterback like Jackson Arnold to be able to sit in the pocket most of the time. And then when he does take off, once he's lulled them to sleep back there and he takes off, it's like, oh, crap, this guy can run too. So look, I think a lot of Baylor fans are counting on that they are going to see the worst of Jackson Arnold. And they're not factoring all these things around him that are going to be improved this year here at Auburn. An improved offensive line, a better wide receiver room, and a very, very good stable of running backs to help support him so he doesn't feel like he has to do it all with his legs. I think 150 carries on the ground for Jackson Arnold this year. I would like to see those in the double digits instead of the triple digits, personally, but we'll see. Look, let's get to the second half of the show here after a quick word from our sponsors. We're going to talk about the kicking game, and we're going to talk a little bit about that heralded wide receiver room right after a quick word from our sponsors, our friends at the Vibe Vault. If you're in the Columbus, Phoenix City area and you're looking to get fresh for the weekend, visit the Vibe Vault. You can find them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Suite E in Phoenix City, Alabama. Not just barbers, lifestyle consultants. Also want to thank our friends at Golden's Cast Iron. Visit goldenscastiron.com/WR. Use code Get Your Weight Up for 15% off your weights and code TWR for $65 off fire pits and Kamado grills. The summer's here. You want to be outside eating or just staying in shape with some cast iron weights. Work out, grill out, chill out with Golden's Cast Iron. Last but certainly not least, I want to thank our friends at setsforsociety.ai. Get on the path to knowing yourself better with Sets for Society. They have custom personality assessments, Kyle, that help you know a little bit more about how you think, how your coworkers, your teammates, your partner thinks, and how you can relate to them, how they can relate to you. The path to self-enlightenment starts today with Sets for Society. Get your custom personality assessment started today for free at setsforsociety.ai. We want to thank them for sponsoring this segment. Let's jump back into our conversation here. One of the things that kept Auburn from winning games last year was an iffy kicking game. And I'm telling you, the Jackson Arnold answer didn't worry me at all. The Alex McPherson answer absolutely did worry me. This was the first time that I have heard that there was any question that he might not be okay for Friday's game. Yeah. So let's listen to what Hugh Freeze had to say about the possibility of Alex McPherson not going on Friday.
If Alex is not able to go, what is the backup plan there? And then even if he is able to go, do you guys plan on using multiple kickers depending on the distance?
That will be a discussion that Alex and I have on Friday. If he feels like he's able to participate, the next question will be, all right, let's be real on the, how are you feeling on distance? And it may be pregame before we know that. So the answer is yes. We stand ready to use other kickers. I think Towns has had a solid camp, as has Gibbs. It's really close between those two as far as what they've graded out accuracy-wise. Towns would probably get the first opportunity there, and we believe in all three of those guys. Obviously, Alex is super talented and accurate. It's just a matter of, what he feels like he's able to do, and then we'll go from there with Towns and Gibbs.
I appreciate Towns for his contributions to Auburn, but I want Alex McPherson out there every single time, 10 times out of 10. That's not a shot at Towns. It's just we saw how that went last year. Hopefully, all the backup kickers have improved year over year, but Alex McPherson is different. He is a difference maker. And Hugh Freeze pointed to the kicking game as being responsible for 2, maybe 3 losses last year, which is not a stretch. Auburn it wasn't just about missed kicks. It was about the inability to be able to do things situationally because you could not trust your kicking game. And they did some out of the box things that really backfired on them. You got to be able to go out there and, as Hugh Freeze said during this press conference at one point, have every possession end in a kick, not a punt, but any other kick. Talk to me, man. Are you worried? I'm worried. Like, my level of worry is high with this one.
I think the good thing is that they feel confident enough with Alex to let Alex make the call. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I like that this could go all the way to game time, and Alex gets to make the call, and not only just make the call, but make the call on if he can go at all, and then where he goes in to kick. Like, is it just 40 and under? Is it, when does he go in to kick? And the reason that they give him that responsibility, you touched on it and Hugh touched on it. He's been incredible this fall. Like, it's like he hasn't missed a beat. They've just been taking it really, really easy and really, really slow so as to not do anything to maybe trigger another episode that he had last season. So I am obviously worried because you kind of felt like in the summer, Hugh mentioned he's back full speed, he's gaining weight. He mentioned how much weight he had lost and how much weight he's put back on, and he's been really good. And then now there at least seems to be the possibility that he may not be able to go. So I do like that Alex gets to make the call, and it's not already been made. But I do think they at least have some options. And I'm not ready to give up on Towns either. Like, I think he's an incredible kicker that got thrown in a terrible position. And I'm gonna be honest, coaching really screwed him up as far as in the head early when they had the whole fire sale. Was it against Arkansas or Oklahoma when you waited way too late into the play clock to run or misuse of a timeout to run it all in there. So then all that started. So hopefully that's got past that. That's, he's moved past there, because I think he's a really talented kicker too.
Look, man, it's mental. So much of the kicking game is mental, and once kicker gets the yips, boy, can it be hard to recover from. Hopefully, a good offseason for that room means that Auburn has multiple guys that can make kicks at least inside the 40. I think, not being able to kick kicks from 35 to 40 is really what killed Auburn. Like, it's not necessarily the 50-yarders, but, what I would consider routine for a average to solid college kicker in today's college football. The kicking game could come in big if the offense stalls. And if you're Auburn, it's not been a lot of points that's kept you from wins. It's been a base points. It's been 21, 24, 26 points. Would have won Auburn a lot of football games last year. You're losing to Vandy 17-7, a couple kicks put you right there in a one-score game where you have a chance to win rather than losing to the likes of Diego Pavia again. Look, outside of the kicking game, the wide receiver room has been absolutely heralded this offseason. We're going to talk about a question that was asked about a certain receiver in that room right after a quick word from our sponsors, our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com. Use code REPORTER to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. Visit them for all your herbal medicinal needs. Great sponsors of the War Report. We appreciate them for sponsoring this segment. Kyle, Horatio Fields. I listed on Twitter, I tweeted out the offensive depth chart. Now, like I know depth charts for Auburn football are all but useless. So you can look at it, but it's absolutely nothing. And what I saw on the depth chart, especially in the wide receiver rooms, was a lot of ors. Cam Coleman or Sam Turner. Well, we know it's Cam Coleman. Horatio Fields or Perry Thompson. This one,
every wide receiver was an or.
Yep. Eric Singleton or Malcolm Simmons or Bryce Cain. Now, do I believe all these guys are going to play? No. But I do think that there is a leader in each one. The most questionable, the most even of the races being Horatio Fields and Perry Thompson. Hugh Freeze was asked a question by our friend Dan Peck from ESPN about Horatio Fields. Let's listen to what he had to say.
Coach, wanted to ask about Horatio Fields. What did you see that made him a priority in the portal? What have you seen this preseason, and what are you expecting this season out of Horatio?
Number one, he's become the leader of that room, believe it or not. I mean, he's the father figure in that room, the old guy, and he speaks great wisdom to all of that room. And if you ask them today, we voted on captains yesterday, and he received quite a few votes, and that's pretty special for a receiver that's come in, and I just think that speaks volumes of who we saw in him as a person and as a leader for the young talent. Then you get him here, and well, on tape you saw length and you saw ball skills, but then you get him here and you see his route running, and you're like, man, we've hit on another one. This guy's a solid player and does a lot for us in being able to. His football IQ is really high. Can learn different positions. Allows us to go some different personnel groupings that he can handle, and so really pleased with his camp for sure.
Hugh Freeze pleased with Horatio Fields. High praise, calling him the father of the wide receiver room. High praise. I don't know if he's old enough to be anybody's father in there, but he is old enough to be a leader, at the very least. Horatio Fields, this isn't the first time he's had this sort of praise for Horatio. He's talked about his poise, his leadership, his mentorship. He called him the Keandre Lambert Smith of this new wide receiver room earlier in the spring. Talk to me about Horatio Fields. I've gone back and forth on this one. I like Perry Thompson. I think that when you recruit top 30, top 50 overall players, they need to play.
Sure.
They do. But you have to continue to go out and get the best talent that's available. That's what Auburn has done this offseason. Hugh Freeze said, look, we didn't want to lose anybody in the wide receiver room this year. We wanted it to be a room that stayed together. They spent the money to keep it together, and they didn't have as much money to go out in the portal and spend or in recruiting for the 2026 class to spend as a result. Horatio Fields adds more than just depth, it seems. It seems that he could be a real player in there, a real steadying force for Auburn's passing game.
Imagine getting first team votes. I'm sorry, not first team votes, captain votes from other players.
Yeah.
And this is your first year here. Like, I think, you would think that there's almost like the guys that are here are going to stick together, and then the new guys are going to kind of be, it's hard for those two to gel. But not only is he like the father figure of the room, like he's the one that everybody kind of looks to, but also like he's garnered the respect of his teammates enough from a leadership perspective to be considered as one of the captains. Now, obviously, he didn't win, but just getting any votes, I think that speaks a lot of, speaks volumes. And one of the things that I always liked when we first got him was what Hugh mentioned, his length and the ability to be a big physical body that gives you multiple options, not having to sub out for different formations. Like if you need a guy that can run a route and get open and make a play, he can. And then also he can dump truck that defensive back into the sidelines when you have to call a run play. Like he's big and physical, and you don't have to. That's one of the things that just drives me insane is when you have to do these full sale personnel substitutions, because it slows everything down. If you got a guy that's got a lot of different tools in the bag, it's very valuable. And I think that's what you got out of Horatio Fields. That's what you're going to get out of Horatio Fields.
Yeah, look, Horatio is set to have an impact this year. A lot of the wide receivers are. It's going to be really, really fun to watch, I think, for a lot of people to see what they're able to do there. This is as deep as a wide receiver room as we've seen in the SEC in quite some time. The recruiting is clear. You got the number 5 overall player coming out of high school in Cam Coleman, the Phoenix City prospect, a player that would have gone to Clemson or Alabama before in the past. He's at Auburn, and he committed to Texas A&M. Had not Jimbo fumbled the bag, he might be there. But he's at Auburn. Perry, was a flip. You've got all these guys, Bryce Kane, Malcolm Simmons. This has to be the year. I think it all comes together in the passing game. Hugh Freeze has talked repeatedly about getting guys with pass catch radius in this league. You got them. Now you have to get them the ball. It's going to be a ton of fun to watch Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. We have the SEC on Fox on Friday night. It's going to be super weird. Colorado and Georgia Tech play on ESPN, and Auburn and Baylor on Fox. The Big 12, since it's a home game for them, I guess they win with their broadcasting rights there.
Need YouTube TV to get their stuff together. There's always those contract negotiations around this time.
Sure.
We got to get that one settled.
Kyle, I want to thank you for joining me today. As always, before we get out of here, tell people where they can find you.
Absolutely. Go to thebarnauburn.com. That's where you can catch us. All the recruiting action, team action, general conversation, just a fun place to hang out if you're an Auburn fan and you want to be a part of a cool community.
A cool community indeed. And look, if you're part of our community, hit the comments after the video. Tell us what you think about what Hugh Freeze had to say here about his quarterbacks, his offensive line, his kicking game, even his wide receivers. We want to hear from you. And while you're in the comment section, smash that super thanks button. Your financial support helps keep the work that we're doing here at the War Report going. We are the War Report on every social media platform. TW Report on TikTok. Guys, we're signing off. And as always, worry.